The Kurds have been in the news in the last few years, mainly for their prominent role in the fight against ISIL in Iraq and Syria. But who are the Kurds and what do they want? Together, they make up about 30 million people, united by race, culture and language. The majority are Sunni Muslims, and they live mainly in regions that straddle the borders along Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria and Armenia. In Iraq, the Kurds, with a population of 5.5 million, control a largely autonomous region in the northern part of the country. Their regional government is headquartered in Erbil, and their fighting forces, the Peshmerga, have played a significant role in pushing back against Islamic State. In Turkey, there are about 14 million Kurds. There, a separatist group, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, also known as the PKK, is waging an armed struggle for a Kurdish homeland. Its efforts are strongly resisted by Turkish forces, and the bloody conflict has claimed about 40,000 lives since the early 1980s. Last month, Kurds in Syria declared they were setting up a federal region in areas under their control in the northern part of the country. Kurds make up about 10% of the Syrian population, and the self-proclaimed region they want to establish is also known as Rojava. Later in the show, we will have perspectives on Kurdish efforts for autonomy in Iraq and Turkey. But we begin with the Kurds in Syria. Joining me now from Brussels is Saleh Moslem Mohamed. He is co-president of the Syrian Kurdish Democratic Union Party. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now, last month, your party, the Syrian Kurdish Democratic Union Party, voted to create a federal region in northern Syria. Why do you think the Kurds in Syria want a federal region?
Our regards again to all your audience and your viewers, watchers, TV. We think what we are doing in the north of Syria or in the Rojava, the place Kurdish people we are calling, is not done by only the Kurdish people. It's by the Kurdish people and the other components which we are living together. And it's a long approach. It's not for one day. I mean, our areas were liberated from the regime since 2012, and then we had to make some arrangements, I mean, to help the people, to aid them, to make the people look after themselves. So we established these democratic self-administrations in our area, and now this area became larger by Shaddadi and Tel Abyad and other places, which they are mostly Arabs, not only the Kurds. So what they have decided, it's a beginning of the project. Actually, they have announced, but the rules and the organizations and even maybe the agreements between the components will take a time. It need about approximately 6 months to be announced. But all the components, after 2 days of a conference held in Rumelan, which is a town in Rojava or in north of Syria, they decided to make a kind of unity. So it's a unity between the components. The name is not important. Maybe it could be federalism or whatever it is. But it is a kind of unity, or for those people, the components in that area, to deal with each other in order to all the Syria to be liberated and to establish a system which is decentralized Syria. It could be federalism or something else, I don't know. It depends on the agreement between the components. So that's what we are looking for. And in our area, just because we are able to make some settlements in our area, because of that, we decided to make this unity. Maybe it could be federalism, or maybe the name even in future could be changed. So this is the case.
So do you think that federalism is the best option for Syria?
Well, we think so. Maybe just because the federalism is not a fixed model. I mean, it depends on the components of the most important. We believe that Syria cannot go back to centralized Syria as it was before, under the governing of Bas regime or maybe some other parties. So it should be decentralized Syria.
Right.
all the components feel that they are free and they have their democratic rights.
Okay.
So maybe the federalism could be a solution for that.
Right, but the Syrian government has rejected that. It says that it's illegal for anyone trying to create a federal region within the country, and says that whoever does that is undermining the sovereignty of Syria. How would you respond to that?
Well, the Syrian regime rejects everything because the situation now, which is Syria, is this situation is the regime is the reason for that, because they didn't accept freedom for the people, they didn't accept the democracy, they didn't accept the components' rights, democratic rights. Because of that, the Syria is under this situation, which we are see, is the result of what regime was doing. So it means still they don't believe in democracy and the components' rights, democratic rights for the components and even for the individuals. So this is the situation. So
right. So
I mean, the Syrian revolution is just to maybe to make a democratic country.
right, but
So
this
if they are thinking of democracy, maybe they can submit the model they believe for future Syria.
But this move
but they
came,
don't believe in it.
right, this move towards creating this federal region in Syria, it came just as talks are taking place in Geneva on a peace settlement in the whole country, in the whole of Syria. Are the Kurds trying to establish facts on the ground here, even before that meeting, that peace conference, reaches a conclusion?
Well, this is not the case, but we think this solution should be discussed in Geneva talks and Geneva negotiations. But for our announcement is not like that. I mean, just because we don't know what's going to be the result of Geneva. Maybe if we know if they are going to be agree of some kind of model of decentralized, maybe we could wait for the results. But what we see, the Geneva talks is not going to go to anywhere, because with the actual situation in Geneva, because from one side is the regime, which is the Baasist mentality, and from the other side, the opposition is not representing all the Syrian people. It's just maybe those Islamic fractions or whatever it is. It's not representing all the components. And they are excluding the Kurds, excluding all Syriacs, excluding, I mean, everybody believes in democracy.
Right. What do Syria's Kurds ultimately want in the country? Would you be satisfied with this federal region, or ultimately do you want a separate nation with independence?
Let me state again, this is not the Kurdish region, because we are talking about the components. We are talking about the Arabs, especially after the liberation of Shaddadi and Tel Abyad and the other places. There are Arabs, Turkmens, and Syriacs. All of them are sharing. So it's not a purely Kurdish state. So we believe, I mean, even in Syria, because we have different components, even from ethnically or from the belief sides. So all these components, they should have their democratic rights. So this federalism is not a model for ourselves, I mean for the Kurds only. For Durzis, for Alawites, for Ismailis, and for the Christians, for Syriacs, and for all the fractions, this is the only solution, what we believe. So I think if we are able to explain everything to the people, the components, they will be persuaded, I mean, for this solution.
What would you say to those who say that here we have a part of the world, a region in the world, which is already suffering from very serious ethnic and sectarian conflict, that creating another autonomous region in the Middle East would just make it more unstable?
Well, we think it's not like this. I mean, the case is completely different. The fighting which we are seeing in the Syria now is the result of the maybe dictatorship for depressing all the people, trying to make a homogen. I mean, one person or one nationality within the Syria. So the result was these clashes, this fighting. Just because they couldn't resolve the problems which they have in Syria. I mean, maybe diversities, and they didn't respect the diversities and the special cases and even the freedom for the individuals. And the result is the situation which we are seeing now in Syria. If they have solved these problems, I mean, between the different components, and so we wouldn't came to this situation.
Okay.
So if we are trying to find a kind of solution, not to go again for the fighting, so we have to know the democracy, to give the democracy to the rights. So the case is completely the opposite of what they are saying.